Hi, and if you're a subscriber, welcome back. Now you might remember a couple of months ago I made a video about 8K. I'll leave a link to it up there top right if you're interested. It's mainly about whether our eyes can actually see 8K at normal viewing distances and whether we need to change the way we shoot for 8K going forwards. It got a great response and started some really interesting discussions. Thank you very much for that. But you might have noticed that I was missing something quite important. I don't actually have an 8K TV to show you the results. And then, out of the blue, some lovely people from LG got in touch, and they offered to send me one of their 4K OLED panels and a competitor's 8K TV just to compare. Now I'm flattered that anybody from LG had actually watched one of my videos, but this does give me a couple of problems. Firstly, I need to make it very clear that both of these sets have been supplied by LG for review. Secondly, how do we know they haven't been played with or calibrated to affect the results? How do we know they're the same sort of TVs that we can all go and buy? Well, I suggested that I go to a local store and get them myself. And you know what? To my surprise, they said yes. Okay, do it. So I will. Right now. Ta-da! And here they are. The 65-inch 4K OLED from LG and the 65-inch 8K QLED from Samsung. And make no mistake, both of these screens are really good-looking flagship models. Physically, the first thing you notice about the 4K OLED is how shockingly thin it is. I was actually worried about picking this up just because it feels impossibly thin. It's not usually worth talking about the look of the back of a TV, but in this case, it's a rather smart, polished metal feel. Probably worth talking about the back of this set, simply because I have a feeling lots of people are going to be rubbing their hands over it just to confirm the thinness. There is a bulge near the bottom, just to give you somewhere to plug in all the connections. But this also allows a little more room to fit in some decent speakers. The stand on this set is ridiculously heavy, but it does include this piece of metal along the front which seems to reflect the sound out towards you. It's the first flat TV I've ever seen where I'd consider using it without a soundbar. The sound is really good. The downside to this arrangement is it makes it much harder to have a tight wall mount. All the cables point directly back, so although the screen is very thin, it's going to live quite a way from the wall. Having said that, when it's on a stand, it's a very smart looking screen, and it has the appearance of almost being printed on a piece of glass. Because the QLED works with a conventional backlight, there's no way it's going to be as thin as an OLED. It's not a bad looking set, with nice thin bezels, but it's about 30mm thick. Unfortunately, this isn't thick enough to allow for better speakers, so you'll probably want to add a soundbar for decent audio. However, it's not all bad news, because the back of this set is perfectly flat. It also uses the really neat Samsung Connect box through a very thin fibre cable which moves all of your connections, even power, away from the actual TV. This makes the whole thing a perfect form factor if you're looking for a smart wall mount. Both of these TVs also have voice control, but even here I found that the LG just seemed to understand me better. Find Extrashot channel on YouTube. If you're watching this on a TV that has voice control, press the microphone button on your remote now. Subscribe to Extrashot. There you are, done it for you. Joking apart, you don't want to watch me playing with televisions. You probably want to know about picture quality because that's the most important thing. Now in my last video, I questioned whether it was actually possible for our eyes to actually see 8K. So you probably want to know if it's worth buying an 8K TV, or is 4K good enough? But now I've got a problem, because I know which screen is which, and you might think that I would be biased just to make a point. What I need to do is a blind TV test. I need to find a couple of people who will sit on the settee the right distance away, sitcom style, watch some pictures, and judge these TVs without knowing anything about either screen, or even why we're doing a blind test. I need a couple of top industry professionals, people who spend every day judging picture quality, people whose opinion I trust and respect. Unfortunately, they were busy, so I got Steve and Mark instead.
He's put gaffer tape over the name, hasn't he? So we don't know what we're looking at.
Brand X. Are we going to call it X and Y?
Okay.
Should we call the left one X and the right one Y?
We should do that.
There's plenty of skin. Oh, the guy at the back. See the guy in the silly red jacket?
Yeah. Actually, look at the greens.
And what about the reds? The reds, if you look at the choir boys. Now, is that...
But would you say that's more natural?
The next thing I would be thinking about is the contrast.
Yes.
And how it's dealing with the whites and the blacks.
Exactly. Do you see the guys in the white smocks at the back? It's losing detail on the white, on the left-hand one.
So look at his
on the shoulder.
I think the blacks are losing detail here.
Yes, it's more muddy on that one.
Yeah.
There's more black detail.
There's more detail on this one.
Y appears to have more dynamic range.
Yes.
It seems to be tolerating the highlights better and showing a bit more detail.
The shadows.
In the shadows. That's what the bods call roll-off as well. If you look at Phil's face when he does the one shot there, it's got a better roll-off between the bright bit of the side of the cheek and on the front of the cheek.
Yeah. What about sharpness?
That's a tricky one. Now you're going to say this one looks sharper.
Right, this is what I was going to say to you, because but that's because, tell me why.
Because it's got more perceived contrast. And you up the contrast and things look sharper.
Could we get the perfect balance by just tweaking them?
To be honest, the Y, that one over there, the second one, is 95% there. So all I'd do is I'd maybe just tweak the colour.
Oh, now this is lush. But you see, this is really showing the dynamic range, isn't it? Much more detail on Y.
Exactly.
However, they're good.
They're both good
pictures.
If you didn't have two to compare, you'd have a hard time.
Is this more green? Is X more green?
It's more colour generally.
No, I think... okay, forget the shots.
Actually, it's blue on that one, it's green on there. The colour is different. See everything, it's the purples, it's the yellows, it's the reds. They're all just cranked up like 10% more on X. Are they different technologies? Is one OLED and one LCD? Or are they both the same technology?
I'll tell you, the one on the right is OLED.
Right, okay.
Hence how thick it is, or thin.
And that's why it's got a better viewing angle.
And
oh my goodness!
It's thinner than your phone. And the one...
Me. I need to touch it.
Touch it!
That can't be that thin.
That's not real!
No, that's like a credit card.
Oh!
How can it be that thin? That's witchcraft. See, the whites aren't quite white on this anymore. They're a bit tinted.
Close up, that's starting to fall apart.
No, and also, look at the viewing angle.
Whoa! From here, it's massively different at this viewing angle.
Hi.
Are you able to see both screens at the same time without moving your head? It's a bit weird, isn't it?
If you were in the showroom and you're just bothered about picture quality, nothing else, which are you going to spend your cash on?
If they're the same price and they're side by side, I'd definitely go for Y. Resolution-wise, they look the same. Pixel for pixel, I wouldn't say there's any difference.
Y, definitely.
The more I look at it...
I feel like I'm there.
So if I was to now tell you that one of those TVs is 4K and the other one is 8K...
Oh, really?
Are you serious? Is that true?
Yep.
Right.
Well, that's pointless then, isn't it? That's a complete waste of bandwidth.
So, oh,
So,
you know, I said that X on the left seemed sharper, right?
Yes.
And you were saying that could be to do with the contrast, right?
Yeah. To be honest,
He's really,
I don't think you can tell the difference.
well, right, Mark, Y is 8K, X is 4K, I reckon.
I'm inclined to agree with you, but I'm not convinced. It's because that looks more contrasty.
No, that's detail, that's not just contrast.
would it help if you go right up to the screen?
Look at that!
But look at that one. I think
No, look at this! Look at this! Look at the people! Look at the people on there!
No, I think. Oh no, they're like ants on there.
Look at
You can
the
actually
cars!
see their legs on
look
that
at
one.
that car! Look at the wheels on that car!
It's not.
That's shocking!
It's not that different, though. But you can still see.
Look at the... No, this is... I've never seen a picture like this.
I'm still not.
Oh, yeah.
I'm still not. Yeah, this has got more contrast in it, but doesn't mean it's got more resolution.
That is stunning.
See, I think this could be the 8K.
You go X or Y, left or right?
I'm going to go X.
I'm going to go Y.
Okay.
On the right. Okay, please tell us.
X is a Samsung QLED 8K. Y is an LG 4K OLED. So which would you buy?
I would buy Y.
Yeah, I'd still buy
I'd still buy Y.
still buy Y. Which begs the bigger question: do we actually need 8K?
No. He's tricked us big time.
I honestly can't tell.
He was waiting just to say that. Oh, by the way, one of them's 8K. 8K.
Let me cue that other one up again.
Didn't get it. We didn't.
No, I
we
thought
didn't
it'd been.
guess that's where you were going with this.
I thought it'd
Can't
be.
tell, can you?
No.
No,
That
I thought it'd be
picture-
phenomenally different.
I'm trying not to look smug and failing, but there were no tricks. Before making this comparison, I made it very clear to LG that I reserved the right to say whatever I thought about either screen, good or bad. It's the least I could do, otherwise I'll lose the trust of all of you, my lovely subscribers. Besides, Steve and Mark pretty much said it all. Both screens were left at their default picture settings as they came out of the box. The only adjustment I made was to turn off the motion plus, or that soap opera effect that everybody hates for movies. And what the guys were watching was a selection of upscaled 4K and true 8K resolution. Now, it's really difficult to get 8K onto the QLED screen at the moment. In the end, what I did was burn short H.265 clips onto large USB sticks in two versions, one for each TV. Now don't get me wrong, I do understand there are valid reasons not just for shooting 8K, but also having 8K displays. Anything static or close-up, computer displays, education, medical procedures, sports, even gaming if you can do high frame rates. I'm just not sure if it's the right thing for watching movies. So I'm not surprised that the guys couldn't spot the 8K TV from normal viewing distances. It's exactly as we predicted in the previous video. I am surprised that it wasn't more obvious when they were looking at both screens really close up. How can a 4K screen look better than an 8K one? Well, Steve and Mark were on the right lines when they started talking about contrast. And it's not just how black and white you can make each screen, it's also about the display of adjoining pixels of different brightnesses, the grey areas in between. The techies call it contrast modulation, and it's now an international standard for displays, defined as a percentage. So if you look at really small text, close up, if it's pin sharp, that's 100%. If it starts to go a bit grey, that's a lower percentage. Anything less than about 50% is just not good enough. If you have a line of pure white next to a line of true black, the amount of grey you see between the lines directly affects what you perceive as resolution. In effect, the line looks blurred. So a 4K TV with sharp lines can look like it's higher resolution than an 8K TV with fuzzy lines. Now both of these screens look grey at this distance, but actually they're displaying a pattern of alternating black and white lines, exactly 1 pixel thick. That's 4K on the 4K screen and 8K on the 8K. If we look a little closer at the 8K QLED first, we can see that the lines don't look very well defined. We can see the grey between the lines of black and white. Now I have no idea if it's just the very bright backlight that the QLED needs to shine through those 33 million pixels, or the filters they've put in front to try and improve the viewing angle. But the lines on the QLED don't look very sharp. In fact, I'm not sure they even meet those international standards for contrast modulation. One of the problems with shining a backlight through filters is that the higher you go with resolution, the brighter the backlight needs to be. Each pixel is smaller, but has a line of black around it, so more pixels, more lines of black. It's like a mesh that's getting smaller and darker. However, when we look at the same black and white pattern in 4K on the OLED, everything actually looks sharper. Because the individual pixels on OLED are actually emitting the light, when you turn one line of pixels off, they go totally black. The lines between adjoining pixels are more defined. Or we could say the contrast modulation is higher. So that's how a 4K OLED can look like it's higher resolution than an 8K QLED. Now I've been watching both of these screens for quite a few weeks now, side by side with the same content running on both. It's starting to annoy my wife. At least I think it's that. But we've all learnt something from this comparison. When it comes to displays, resolution doesn't necessarily mean quality. And it might be a mistake to rush out and buy an 8K just to be the first person on the block to have one. Besides, if a 4K can look so much better than an 8K, what would an 8K OLED look like? Thanks for watching.